Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss the latest Manchester United news, funnily enough, on the United Stand. We're going to be talking about the Glazers and their plan to stay backfiring because the price is tumbling for Manchester United. We'll fly into that first of all. We'll also be talking about some deals that are coming in. Garnacho expected to be very soon. Bit of an update on Rashford. Also, a bit of a story around Weghorst that a few people have been asking me about this morning about Weghorst potentially not staying at Manchester United. I would observe completely the opposite at this moment in time, but what I would say is it's probably a little bit early for us to do that. Also, we'll have all the latest around the sale, and of course it's a big day because we've got Ten Hag's press conference coming in at 12:30. Barcelona as well. There's an open training session this afternoon, I think, for Barcelona as well. So lots to get into on the show this morning, none more so than this amazing bit of news that's come in around the price drop around Manchester United shares and why that's really important. We're going to hit that straight away. But before we get into that, as you can see, I've just dropped Seb at football and I'm wearing the Boohoo Man sort of raincoat, shiny. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we're sponsored by Boohoo Man on the show today. So what's Boohoo Man about? Well, Boohoo Man is all about giving you a little bit of a quiz on a Wednesday morning. But Boohoo Man is also about looking good and feeling great. And as we start this new year and move into spring, there's no better time to get yourself some brand new active wear. Because Boohoo Man are sponsoring the show, though, it means time for some United-related trivia. So this week, we're seeing if you guys can guess which United player Boohoo Man are actively talking about from the below clues. So, I was born on the 18th of November 1963. I joined Manchester United on the 6th of August 1991 for $505,000, a price described by Sir Alex Ferguson as the bargain of the century. I played 292 times for the club, scoring 0 goals. I actually thought he scored 1, but I might be wrong on that. I also played for Man City 29 times before retiring in 2003 and one half of the only father and son duo to ever win the Premier League. Of course it's a goalkeeper. Of course it is Peter Schmeichel, the greatest goalkeeper I've seen play for Manchester United. But of course David De Gea could break his clean sheet record any time now. He's equalled up with it. As always, a big shout out to Boohoo Man for giving United Stand a discount for this video. By scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description, using the code GOLDBRIDGE, you can get an extra 10% off anything at the Boohoo Man website, excluding certain sale items. So thank you so much to Boohoo Man for supporting the show. Get yourself some fantastic clobber from Boohoo Man. You could wear something like this or many of the other bits that they've got there. Really, really reasonably priced, and you can get an extra 10% off. So big shout out to Boohoo Man. Scan the QR code or go through the link in the video description. Destructor, welcome to the show. He says, I hope David De Gea breaks his record. He's going to break his record. Of course he's going to break his record. Anyway, look, let's fly into something very big this morning. We're going to start off with this story around Manchester United's share price and why this has backfired for the Glazers. So, if you remember on the show yesterday, we were talking about how the prospects of the Glazers actually staying at Manchester United, and I think there was a few red flags raised without a doubt. There was the fact that they these red flags around the increase in season ticket prices. Also, the appointment of a director of operations. Also, the story from yesterday that there was, Manchester United will still spend money in the summer if the Glazers are in charge. And it's like, what are you talking about if you're still in charge? So there was a lot of red flags yesterday. But this is significant. And this is why I think it's backfired. Now, there's two trains of thought. The Glazers genuinely are thinking about staying, or they're pretending to stay to drive the price up. But it backfires on both levels because the buzz around Manchester United is not exclusively to do with Erik Ten Hag and the players on the pitch. It's actually to do with the sale of the football club. It's part of the pie. It's one of the layers. The positivity around United is not just because we're doing well on the pitch. It's also because there is optimism. There are prospects. What the Glazers seem to think is that we're going to sell the club. Oh, the club's playing well now, we're not going to sell the club. That's not going to work. The positivity around this club, the brand positivity and everything else like that is not going to work unless you go. You're part of the positivity. Your leaving is part of it, and that's reflected by this. Now, this is from Kieran Maguire, who's very good around the financial situation in football. Says that Manchester United's share price went down by over 12% yesterday, reducing the market value by $530 million in a day. That's $500 million in a day. Would you like Harry Kane to come in the summer, says Reagan? Can we talk about that a little bit later? Get with the programme. Appreciate the super chat, but get with the programme. We don't just change course because you want to talk about Harry Kane. It's a news show, but we will come back to it. But look, so look, $500 million wiped off in a day from Manchester United. Now, in fairness, the share price has gone up hugely since talk of the sale. But it is coming down. And the reason it's coming down is because news is out there that the Glazers might want to stay, and market confidence and positivity plummets straight away. So it's backfired. It's absolutely backfired, because ultimately, if they're pretending to stay to get a bigger price, well, the value of your club's just dropped by you doing that. And if you are thinking of staying, the profit you think you're going to make by staying is going to plummet because people don't want you to stay. You are in negative. You are a breeze block around the ankle of Manchester United. If it's released, the club will swim to the surface and everyone will say, hey, you're back. If you are still the breeze block round our ankle, we will sink to the even further and no one will say, hey, we're back. So I think it's a positive story in a way because it just shows you that even with what Ten Hag's doing on the pitch, what the players are doing on the pitch and the positivity around that, that's not the main reason why your share price is going up. In fact, it's very little to do with that. The share price has shot up because you're going to sell. If you're going to stay, people will just pull out. People will be like, I don't want to be involved in this. And I suppose the question would be why? Because, Ten Hag's doing very well anyway. Why would the share price come down? Because logically, everybody's got 17 years of evidence as to what the Glazers will do with this football club. They don't really want to invest in the structure. They don't want to invest in the stadia. They don't want to invest in facilities. And they don't really want to invest in the team. All they want to do is keep taking money out the club from money the club makes. So, that's not a business model for anybody to be invested in or excited about. So you might not be massively interested in share price drops, but I think it's a very, very big significant update that the Glazers, whether they've done it directly or not, it's a really big positive sign that any news of the Glazers staying causes the share price of Manchester United to plummet. That's how negative and toxic their name is attached to Manchester United. And I suspect they will be sat there yesterday and today going, that's a big warning, and that's a big warning to any investor, and it's a big warning to them as well. Because the Glazers do have to, if the Glazers stay, they've got to sell something. Otherwise, it is stock price manipulation. You cannot say in November, this club is up for sale or we're looking for major investment and then not do it. You've manipulated the share price. So they've got to sell it or they've got to take investment. But if you're investing in Manchester United and you've just seen what happens to the share price if you invest in the Glazers, you might not want to invest anymore. And if you're the Glazers and you're going to take investment on, well, there's debt repayments on that investment and you've just seen your share price drop. It makes no financial sense for the Glazers to stay at Man United, is what I'm trying to say. And this is why I stay rigid on the point that they will go. Alpha One, welcome to the Members Club. Mark, did you see Xavi referring to Bruno as Portuguese guy? Bruno 90 plus 5 minutes to knock him out, says Mats. Hi Mark, can you say happy birthday to my sister Nazia? She's 30 today. Happy birthday to Nazia. That's from ZR7. And Mark, no one is talking about the Ineos greenwashing. They're a global leader in environmental pollution. It's all about Qatar, says Tim. Well, look, I wanted to fly straight into it because a lot of people are very interested in the takeover news, etc. Remember, we've got Eric Ten Hag's press conference reaction at 12:30 for you as well today. Big day as we move towards that big game tomorrow. But look, take it on board. That is significant. When the share price drops, then that is significant because it means that there is low market confidence in the club. Well, why would there be low market confidence in Manchester United at this moment in time when actually things have been looking up on the pitch? And that's because our share price rocketed because of them looking to sell. Any hint of them not looking to sell, and obviously you can see that share price will start to drop. Personally, I'm quite happy about that. I'm quite happy that the share price drops, because ultimately that hurts the Glazers. It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't hurt Ten Hag. It hurts the Glazers. So I'm quite happy for that to happen, and I'm quite encouraged by that happening. And it just shows you, not just fans. The fans are furious about the prospect of the Glazers staying, but financial people don't like it either. And that's because we don't like it. So, look, I'm still very confident they're going to sell. And it is to Qatar and Sir Jim Radcliffe's benefit, and they're ready to pounce, as we know. I've always been suspicious of the Glazers' motives, says Juan, for putting the club up for sale. If my dad was still alive, he would be saying, I told you so. And increasing season ticket prices increases revenue. Would this help with financial fair play, says David? Yes, it would. It would. Technically, you're right. And Connor says, what percentage would you give the Glazers to stay? I don't think the Glazers are staying. I don't want people to... You should never listen to one person's opinion anyway. You should always make your own mind up. This is just a very personal thing here. I think there is a 90% chance. Oh, I don't want to say 90% because that's gone wrong twice. I'm 95% they're going to sell. I'm very sure they're going to sell. Very sure they're going to sell. And some of that's from a little bit of info, I will admit, but I think they're going to sell. And I think actually that share price thing sort of backs that up as well. I think they are going to sell because their life is not going to be good if they stay. And I'm not talking about protests. Financially, they're going to be squeezed. They're not, it's like, it's like Take That going on tour. Absolutely incredible, right? Take That go on tour and all their tickets are selling out and they do 3 or 4 more venues, but Gary Barlow's not going to be there. Oh, we don't want to go then. And then people start getting rid of their other tickets. The interest in the event disappears. And this is the thing. That's the same with Manchester United and the Glazers. Man United's up for sale. Oh, yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be great. Oh, the Glazers are saying, oh, fuck, I'm not interested in that. I'm not investing in that. It's a very similar theory. Manchester United with the Glazers attached is a negative brand. Ricky, welcome to Members Club. So yeah, I'm 95% sure they're going to sell. And ultimately, what is the god of the Glazers? Money. What's the best way for them to make money? Sell the club. Never go 90% again. I still remember the ship that sank in Mallorca, says David. Yes, but Bruno did. Bruno did come back, didn't he? But look, update on what's happening with the bids. Qatar and Sir Jim are ready to bid again. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about this, like what's the next steps in the sale process. So the next steps are that there was this soft deadline on Friday. People could still come in and bid, but there is gradual movement to the next step. Deep financial information that will now be provided to those people who have put the email in or the bid in. They'll be analysing that. How long's a piece of string is what I was told, but effectively, it's obviously it's being run by the Rain Group and the Glazers, but it's also how quick they ask for, second bids. The next step that could be in the next couple of weeks. There's real uncertainty around when this will all get resolved now, and there are some concerns. There has already been said that Manchester United will still buy players under the Glazers, and it's business. I mean, look, something I heard yesterday. It's business as usual at Manchester United. John Murta, Richard Arnold, the Glazers, they are increasing ticket prices. They have scouts looking to buy players in the summer. That's the process they're going through at the moment. So that's always been my concern, and I've always been in a minority. That I've always said, I don't know how you sell a football club in March or April. You don't. You just don't do it. I think we're heading towards what happened with Chelsea, where the new owners won't be in until the transfer window is already opened, in which case it damages our transfer window. So I think that how long's a piece of string is very true. How long is this going to take? But rest assured, there is genuine interest in buying Man United and they want to get it done. But we're in the hands of the Rain Group and we're in the hands of the Glazers, and I would concede that something's going on. Something's not quite right. But ultimately, I think it will end up with a sale. Maybe they're dragging their feet a bit, but I think it will end up with a sale. But when it's going to happen, it doesn't feel like it's motoring along, and it doesn't feel like there's a desperation to get it done quick. It feels like they're playing a game. Maybe they're a bit uncertain about a few things. Maybe they're hoping that bigger bids will come in. but I don't see a quick resolution to this. I really don't. I think it's going to drag on, and it's going to impact us on the summer transfer window, which is a concern, because there are clubs in better positions than us to capitalise on this summer transfer window and then be better prepared for next season, where we should be building on what we're doing this season. Ten Hag should be allowed to do that. Glazers out ASAP. Yes, that needs to happen. And Mark, will Sir Jim know what Qatar will bid and vice versa to Destruct? I don't know. There was something from Sky yesterday that Qatar obviously will run Manchester United as a non-for-profit football club, but Sir Jim intends to do that as well. Yeah, I think that will happen. Look, I said yesterday, it's up to people what they do, but I don't know how you're voting for Sir Jim when you don't even know what he's going to do with the club. There's a lot of question marks around this. Like, there is finance from Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan in America to buy Man United, which is apparently going to be taken on by Ineos. So the way I understand this, and I might be completely wrong here, but the way I understand it is this: we're publicly aware of two bids, aren't we? So the way I understand it is Qatar are loaded. They'll build a new stadium. They'll give Ten Hag the money, and they'll never take any money out, and they'll clear the debt. Sounds great. Sounds absolutely great. So Jim Radcliffe will buy 69% of the club, which is the Glazer shares, and potentially not buy the rest of it, which is locked up in other shareholders. Is going to take on finance from American institutions, but that debt will be taken on by Ineos, not the club. The Glazer debt that's already there of $500 million will still remain, but the club will not be for profit. So the money borrowed to buy Manchester United will be taken on by Ineos, and Ineos will pay the debt repayments, even though that's for Man United. And Man United will never take any money out under Sir Jim to go to Ineos to pay back that debt. That's how I understand it. But I don't know, and that's really hard, isn't it? Because we're sat here in front of a few thousand people without the real detail. But that seems to be what it's like. It seems to me there's a lot of debt and there's a lot of money, but will still be run for profit. I suppose the big thing for me on the Sir Jim one, and we don't have the clarity, and there's loads of things that we don't have the clarity on, like, are we keeping the Glazer debt? Will any of United's money be used to pay back Ineos so they can pay back the banks? Maybe not, maybe so. But the big thing that comes out to me about that differs from the Qatar bid is the Qatar bid will be like PSG. There'll be loads of money that's there. You just have to adhere to financial fair play. The biggest problem with the Qatar bid is not doing what Man City have done with financial fair play and not spending more than we've got. The issue I see with the Sir Jim Radcliffe bid is if Ineos is borrowing money to help Sir Jim buy Man United, are they then going to give loads of more money to Sir Jim to pump into Man United? It doesn't sort of make sense. It feels to me like Sir Jim would buy Man United without debt, because that would be left with Ineos. The Glazer debt would still be within the club. And then what would happen is Sir Jim would run the club without taking profit out or dividends, but would basically not put any more money in and would say, you've got to be self-sufficient. So your revenue, profit, that's got to be used on transfers and paying off the debt that's already there, etc. Which will be a very slow build. Some people will like it because it's a moral running of a football club where you live off your own profits, but it'll be a slow build to success because that will take probably 10 years to get to revenue levels that are, competitive. Whereas if someone like Qatar comes in, they will just pump money in. I heard Ricky say that Sir Jim Radcliffe will obviously be favourite with the fans. Has he seen your polls? Shouldn't speak on behalf of fans without quantifying opinion. Well, it's only an opinion, Mark. Would love to be a fly on the wall when Eric gives the players the game plan for tomorrow, says Daniel Kirk. And are you feeling better today, Mark, says MUFC? Yeah, I'm a bit tired today, but I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you very much. I hope everyone else is as well. Elijah says, Mark, last night's watch along will go down in YouTube Folklore, one of the most enjoyable streams I've tuned into. Yeah, if you were on That's Football last night, it was a cracking stream. I'm sure there'll be lots of bits about lilt and all sorts going on TikTok later. It was that sort of show, but it was a great result, wasn't it? Real Madrid smashing Liverpool. You've got to enjoy it. Someone says you look like you cried. Oh, it's not. I've not cried. It's under eye stuff. You get to a certain age and Yeah, it's just under eye. I'd like to tell you what the brand is, but I've just not rubbed it in properly. I've been up since about 6 o'clock this morning, and my eyes were looking tired, so I just wanted to put some rehydrator under it. No, I've not been crying. Luke says, bollocks, our revenue is already competitive. Luke, if you're going to put your gob in there, I'm sorry, I'm going to shut it down. Our revenue is not competitive, mate. Go and take a maths class. Our revenue is not competitive. Explain to me how our revenue is competitive. I'm bored of having this conversation. There are people out there that think Man United can be run morally and compete with clubs like Abu Dhabi and Newcastle. You can't. You can't, because they've got untold wealth. Their only issue is complying with financial fair play. Manchester United's revenue is not enough. Our wage bill is nearly £400 million a year. That's just wages. Our revenue is 600. So even if we only had to pay wages, and we have to pay a lot more than that, our profit is around 150 to 200 million quid a year on a good year. You can't just spend that all on transfers, mate. And even then, it's not enough. 150 million pounds. Remember, that's for January and the summer. It's not enough. Our revenue at the moment is not enough. Our profit level is not enough to be competitive. Because, to be honest, 150 million quid for 2 transfer windows a year, it's not enough, mate. We can get to that point. I think United can get to a point where they lower the wage bill and they increase the revenue. I mean, look, for one, when you get a new stadium, your revenue is going to go up by a couple of $100 million a year anyway, just simply because of increased attendance. But we're a long way from the point where our profit is touching 400 million, and then you're self-sufficient. That's what I'm saying. United have got the model to be a club that can live off its profits comfortably. But we're not there yet. There's too much. And also, what about the stadium? What about the infrastructure? We haven't got enough profit to buy the players we need each summer, let alone buy players, infrastructure, stadia, which, to be honest with you, isn't anything to do with financial fair play. You know, your financial fair play is not impacted by that. But you're mixing two bids up here. Qatar can build a stadium, they can build the infrastructure, and it won't impact on financial fair play. So you've still got your 200 million quid to spend on players because you've got the revenue there to do it. And you can spend anything you like on stadia and infrastructure without falling foul of financial fair play. So under Qatar, you're all right. Under Sir Jim, where's the 2 billion coming from to build the stadium? Surely we're going to be using part of our profit for that anyway. So I think there is a moral way of running Man United, but I don't think we're anywhere near it. And I still stand by what I've been saying for ages. The best model for Man United over the next 5 years is super wealth and a lot of money put in. And then after 5 years, you want to be self-sufficient because you build a model where your revenue is so big because you've got a huge stadium, because you've got huge success, because you've got big brands. But anybody who thinks that Man United could be just taken over tomorrow and run morally, you're in for a very long time without trophies and a very slow build. And why is that? It's because the Glazers have sucked us dry. We could be dominating football off our revenue, but $1.5 billion's gone out of this club in the last 17 years. We're playing catch up. I don't think some people understand this. They think, oh, Man United don't need wealthy people. They can run it off themselves. Oh, did you fail maths then? Because you've got no bloody idea about the financial situation of United. We need 5 years of major investment. And for that, you need super wealth. And then, in 5 years' time, I think we can become self-sufficient. What do you think Man City have been doing for 11 years? Man City's plan over the last 11 years is to get to a point of self-sufficiency as quick as possible. But by doing that, they've obviously gone wrong. But we're not ready tomorrow to just become Mr. Self-Sufficient. And on a very basic level, if people don't understand that, if I took over Man United tomorrow and I said, I'm not pumping any money in, we're just going to be, I bought the club, that's your investment, we're just going to run off our own revenue now, I'd have a massive problem with my CEO because I'd say, right, we need to get Bellingham in the summer, we need to build a stadium, we need to get the infrastructure right, let's go for it. And they're going to go, yeah, got a big problem with that because I've only got £150 million for you to use this summer. And you want to start building a stadium, infrastructure and buy players. I need 300 million for players straight away. We're short. You've got to have investment. And the sad thing is that if we weren't paying off debt and we weren't paying off dividends and we'd actually rebuilt the stadium over the last 17 years, we'd already have a 90,000 capacity stadium that was state of the art, with 15,000 fans going in extra each game, giving us tens of millions of pounds more revenue each year. Plus we wouldn't be paying dividends or debt repayments. Our profit each year would probably be around 400 million quid now. And then you're self-sufficient. We already should be. That's the long and short of it. We already should be in a position where we are dominating the scene through self-sufficient funds. But the Glazers got the cow and sucked it dry. They didn't suck it off. They sucked it dry. And, I could spend hours chatting to you about this. We need huge money, whether it's state funded, whether it's a lonely billionaire who loves football. We need that. There's a hypocrisy here. I see people saying, I don't want state-owned Manchester United. I don't want super wealthy United. And I think they're coming at it from the wrong angle. They're coming at it from the angle of, I don't want to be like Man City. I don't want to be like Newcastle. I don't want to be state-funded. I don't want super wealth. And that's because they've got some moral stance on it. But what they're missing is, we need that because of what the Glazers did. This is not a moral conversation about state funding or anything like that. We need it because of what the Glazers have done over 17 years. They've left the stadium to rot. That's going to cost loads of money. The infrastructure is crap compared to other Premier League clubs and certainly European clubs. And our revenue to profit ratio is abysmal because of the wages we've paid. And we should be ultimately self-sufficient and blooming. We're not. And anybody who comes in would take years to make it happen. So the best course of action is super wealth in the short term. Is Anthony back yet? Saw him getting stick yesterday from the media, starting to feel protective of him. I think he is back, Daniel, but I don't think he's back for the game tomorrow. Worst case scenario, if Qatar buyers, Man United will be debt free. Upside is we will have a new stadium and improved infrastructure, but at least we are debt free, says Irvin. You've hit the nail on the head, mate, says Michael Doherty. Well, I know it's a Wednesday morning and sometimes people don't fancy having that conversation, but for me it's so simple and I think some people don't understand it. I see it all the time. I don't want Man United to be state funded. I don't want Man United in the hands of a billionaire. And I'm like, you don't understand Manchester United's finances then, do you? There are people walking around with their heads in the cloud thinking that Sir Jim's going to walk in or a consortium's going to walk in and go, from today, Manchester United's back. We've got hold of the club. The horrible Glazers have gone and now we're going to be self-sufficient. And then the next sentence won't be, but should be, we're also screwed for the next 5 years because we can't really spend that much because there isn't any money and we've got to use the profit levels, which are shit because the Glazers have destroyed us over 17 years. But rest assured, we will be back, come back in the year 2032 because that's how long it's going to take. It's going to take a long time. You can't, look, at the end of the day, if you buy a mansion and it's crumbling, so you know, would you do this, right? A mansion's up for sale, it's your dream house. The roof is leaking. The interior needs decorating. The grounds are horrible. You know, they're all churned up because the previous owner used to like tractor racing. It needs modifying. It needs load spending on it, right? You're bidding for it against somebody who is absolutely loaded and will have that sorted in 6 months. You win it, you get into the house, and all you've got is your wage to improve that house. And your wage, you probably have £1,000 left in your pocket each month if you're lucky. They're doing pretty well. That £1,000 a month is not going to get your roof done. It's not going to get your kitchen done. It's not going to decorate it. It's not going to fix your garden. It's not going to fix your windows. It's going to take you a long time to do up your dream house. And that's the best analogy I can give you. If that mansion is decrepit and crumbling and it's Manchester United, someone like Qatar would come in and they've still got to put the work in, but they'll do it quickly because they've got the finance to do it. If somebody comes in and they're saying, we're going to do it together, we've got the house we want, we'll build it up, we'll do it in our own time, with our own money. Yeah, it's going to take you years because you haven't got the wealth. You will get there, but it's going, I don't know what I'm saying, but it's going to take ages. And that's how I see this Manchester United situation at the moment. It's not Qatar against the gym. they might symbolise those two options, but I don't know whether they do. I don't know. Maybe Sir Jim's got billions to spend. Maybe Qatar wouldn't spend billions. I don't know. Take it away from Sir Jim and Qatar and go back to what I've been saying for a while. I don't want moral ownership right now. I don't think it fits where we are. We need super wealth right now, because if we've already been stood still for 10 years. Anybody who says, well, I want moral ownership and I don't care how long it takes, but we've already been stood still for 10 years. If we take another 10 years, Man City might have 20 titles. So we've already been asleep for too long. We're already playing catch up. I think super wealth is the way forward, and that's my opinion. But some people don't want that, and I understand it. Keep singing, Mark. Keep singing. Well, look, not everyone will agree with it, but I think sometimes I see these polls, and I'm sure some of you do, and I just think they're really naive. Even the polls we do, Qatar or Sir Jim or something else, people are voting off very limited information, and I don't like to do that. You know, I like to have as much information as possible, and sometimes you don't get all the information, but you can get a lot more. But people voting for, like, as I say, the bid that I'm concerned about the most is the Sir Jim Ratcliffe one, because I don't think there's a lot of detail there. There's not a lot of detail with Qatar, but the headlines are quite simple. Debt-free, new stadium, infrastructure, squad strengthening. Sir Jim, are we going to be debt-free? Is there going to be infrastructure money? Are we going to have money to spend? Is this a moral crusade to live off our profit? Well, if it is, I don't like that. But ultimately, I've got no say in this at all anyway. And I think that's how you have to look at it. It's about what you want from Man United, isn't it? Smartbridge would thrive as Man United CEO. You make so much sense in terms of how this club is run. Playing good football doesn't determine the value of a football club, says Herbert. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And as I said, the headline this morning is that the share price for Man United is dropping. This is good news, because the only people who benefit from the share price being up is the owner of the club, and the owner of the club is the Glazers. We want that share price to drop. And if I was an investor at this moment in time, and I heard that the Glazers are looking to stay or take on investment, then I would not be happy about, you know, having shares for Manchester United. I'd be getting rid of them, because it's just not the future of Man United under the Glazers. And look, there is a third option there. There is a third option there that we haven't even discussed. If the Glazers stay, what's going to happen? Dividends are going to return. Debt will remain. The stadium will take for bloody ages. Ten Hag will suffer. It'll be like Arsenal when they built a stadium. There's no money for transfers because we're building a stadium. The Glazer option is the horriblest option by a very, very long way. So whatever you want, the Glazer option is the worst. The Glazer option is the shit on the shoe. You don't want that. I'm not sure whose model of the takeover is which. I assume Qatar will be splurging, but regardless, we need to vote on projects, not names, and we need info to say. Well, we don't vote on anything, do we? Another 10 years of not winning the Premier League or the Champions League, and we'll end up like AC Milan, becoming irrelevant, says Nicholas. And Kai, thank you very much. Look, I've got to be fair before we move on. I would absolutely love, to the bottom of my heart, an ownership model where fans are involved, where we are self-sufficient, because I've always felt that if we hadn't been taken over by the Glazers, I'm 100% certain that we would have an amazing stadium, we'd have a fantastic squad, and each year we'd have so much money that we could compete even with the Abu Dhabis and the Saudi Arabia's clubs in the Premier League. We could have been in that situation, and it wasn't a pipe dream, it was a real reality. But we're not in that situation, and we can't be in that situation at the click of a hand. That takes a lot of work, and the reason it takes a lot of work is because of the damage that's been, you know, you can't have 17 years of damage and correct it in 17 weeks. Leaving that stadium for 17 years is going to cost us 10 years to rebuild it. You know, these things will take a long time, and I think some of the buzzwords are wrong. I think this moral fan ownership thing is bullshit. It's a dream. Fan ownership's the last thing we need at the moment, by the way. In my opinion, fan ownership shouldn't even be being discussed. I see people talking about, we want fan ownership. what an absolute nightmare that would be at this moment in time. What we need at the moment is a very wealthy owner who's got total control on decisions and is aligned on what we want. We don't need a say in it. We need an owner that rebuilds the stadium, backs the manager, builds the infrastructure, and in and around that area as well, and has a 5 to 10 year plan. That's all it needs. We need, we don't need a load of chefs. We need Gordon Ramsay. We don't need a load of opinion on it. We don't need fan ownership, in my opinion. Fan ownership dilutes the water at a time where we need decisive catch-up action. Imagine with fan ownership, and you have a say on this and that and this. It just slows the process down, and people will. We already know in our community that people disagree. Imagine the wider, and who would be on that fan ownership thing. I mean, with all due respect, if fan ownership means certain groups advising the owners, well, certain groups aren't respected in this fan base by different people, and they don't speak for everybody in this fan base. I think fan ownership is kick it down the road. It'd be nice at some point, but I hear people talking about fan ownership's the way forward. What a load of shite. What an absolute load of shit. It is not what we need at the moment. Look at the Bayern Munich models. Look at the fan ownership models. That's not what Man United need at the moment. And I don't like saying that because I would like it to happen, but not now. This is the last thing we need at the moment. We need quick, decisive action to get this club back on board. If I was the new owner of Man United, I'd say, if they were interested in fan ownership, I would say there will be fan ownership consultation, but it won't be happening for 5 years. And the reason it's not happening for 5 years is because I'm catching up for 17 years of the Glazers mess. And I've got to sort out stadia, infrastructure, the manager. I've got to get this club back profitable and where it should have been if it wasn't for the Glazers. And that cannot be slowed down by fan ownership, consultation, etc. I can't slow that down. Otherwise, this club's going to fall further behind. 5 years, we'll have a chat about it, but not now. But what I will say is, what do you want as fans? You want the stadium sorted, you want the manager back, you want the infrastructure, and you want us to be the biggest club in the world again. Well, that's my 4 key principles anyway. Let's chat in 5 years' time, because we're aligned anyway. I don't think, but I hear completely the opposite. I hear people saying, no, we need fan ownership. We need fan ownership. I don't think we do. I really don't think we do, because we're so far behind. Fan ownership, how would it even work? Who votes on that? I just think we don't need anything that is going to slow this process down to get this club back where it needs. Let's revisit fan ownership in 5 years' time, but not now. I'd be terrified if one of these bids said, oh yeah, I'm getting the club, then we're going to have some fan ownership. I'd be like, oh my God, this is going to set us back years. We'll be voting about the bloody stadium for 2 years. Like, let's just get on with it. And look, I don't want Old Trafford to get knocked down. I don't want a new stadium. I really don't. But in some ways, if somebody makes the decision we're having a new stadium and they crack on with it, at least we're not wasting 2 years voting about it or arguing about it. People want to live in this utopia, don't they, of like everybody agrees, but they don't. Imagine if we, on one of the biggest issues, imagine if the fans had a say on whether we go and build a new stadium or we stay at Old Trafford. I don't know what the percentage would be. Let's run a poll here now. What would you do? If you had the say, new stadium, okay, we're going to do this right now. So let's pretend the new owner has given us the decision to make, right? So new stadium or Old Trafford, get in the chat. The new owner of Man United is a man of the people, and I want you, the fans, involved in decisions. The first one, shall we stay at Old Trafford or should we build a new stadium? What shall we do, right? So straight away, we're sort of hitting 70% to stay, 30% to go, but it's coming down, right? Guess what? This is what fan ownership's all about. We're going to stay at Old Trafford. 31% of people are not happy. That's not what I voted for. Straight away, you're dividing, aren't you? Whereas if I come in as the owner and I say, we're staying at Old Trafford and that's what we're doing, you've not had a say. You can moan, but you never had a say. You never had a say. Democracy and voting and equality and shares and, you know, everyone's got a say never bloody works, really, does it? Because ultimately, 30% of you are going to be pissed off. Oh, I thought I had a say. No, well, no, it's democracy now. It's about who votes the best. I just think we need we need decisive ownership over the next 5 years. And that, to me, doesn't come from multiple consortium owners, shareholders, fan votes. Not for me. We need somebody who's aligned with what we need, and then they need to go and deliver it. And they need to be accountable. That's what they need. We don't need a dictator. We need somebody who is in total control, who is aligned with what we want. That's what we need. And as I said, if the new owner wants to spend a couple of billion on a new stadium or a renovation, wants to spend money on Ten Hag, wants to spend money on infrastructure, and is determined to make us the best club in the world, why do we need fan ownership or voting? Because that's all we need. The only thing that would concern me by having fans involved is getting it wrong. How many times have you sat there and said that most fans have the wrong idea for the club, says Slow Sports News? Look, my opinions are different to your opinions, and yet we're all United fans. I don't like I mean, look, we probably wouldn't get a say anyway, because we don't fit in the category of being involved in that anyway. You know who the fan consultation would be. You know, look at the fan forum. There's certain people who would be on that who've already got good relationships with the club. I don't think fan ownership would be fairly represented anyway, because I think certain people would be isolated, and certain people would get a very big voice, and then resentment would reign. It's too idealistic. Like, I know people who've got big mouths in the United fan base, and I wouldn't trust them to go and get my Tesco shop. I think that, that their ideas are odd, and selfish and self-serving. Like some ex-players. I mean, look, maybe Qatar would go, we want this ex-player involved. It would make me cry. I'd be like, oh my God. There's not many ex-players I would trust to be involved in United's future. So that for me is, I'd rather just have one identifiable owner, and if they get it wrong, you have a pop at them, and if they get it right, they get the credit. 68% of you would stay at Old Trafford, 32% of you would build a new stadium. Sa has just gifted 5 memberships as well. You're a legend. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. Just moving on to a little bit more topical news, because it is a news show. Just a bit of breaking news coming out from TalkSport. And Alejandro Garnacho is on the brink of signing a new 5-year contract at Manchester United. This is true news. We've known about this for quite a while. It feels to me like the contract situations are quite boring, actually, because we've known about these for a long time. I don't know what the hold-up is. I presume it's just the modern-day issue with getting new contracts done and, negotiation process. I think the fairest assumption on contracts is to say that when a contract's going to get done, and when a contract's not going to get done, and when there's resistance. But ultimately, there's a lot of negotiation around marketing rights and wages and length of contract and release clause. There's a lot of things to sort out, and that's why contract renewals tend to take longer than transfers these days. They're very complex things. Garnacho's always been going to sign a new contract at United, but obviously nobody knows when it will officially be done, because there's still little bits to do. Delot is going to sign a new contract, but it's still not quite there. De Gea is going to sign a new contract, but it's still not quite there. I think Luke Shaw is going to sign a new contract, but it's still not quite there. Marcus Rashford will sign a new contract, but we're still not quite there. I'd say the one that's most complex out of all of those is Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford a year ago wasn't doing particularly well. There was even talk that he might leave Man United. Obviously, there was that very strong link with PSG, where his brother was reported to be going over there to talk to them. And then a year later, he's one of the best players in the world at the moment. And therefore, his stock is high and he has the power. But Man United don't want to pay stupid wages. So I think the Rashford one is probably the most complex one, because it's about finding a middle ground. The player may well feel that he's worth a lot of money, but the club may not want to pay a lot of money. So there may be some negotiations with that one. But obviously, while Rashford keeps scoring goals, it strengthens his position. But then it's how determined Manchester United want to be on their wage structure. The problem Man United have is that, let's say a player like Rashford wants 350 grand a week, and they've, over the last few months, United have got rid of Ronaldo's massive wage. De Gea's is going to come down below 300k a week. So you finally got your wage bill down to no one earns more than 300 grand a week. And you give 350 grand a week to Rashford, it's a problem because the whole squad knows about it. And then the next contract renewal from a decent player is going to go, I want 350 grand a week. But also, not only that, your next signing, whether it's a Frankie de Jong or a Jude Bellingham, goes, well, I want 350 grand a week because that's what Rashford's on. So people forget about this. It's not just about, I'll just get, somebody might be of a mind, well, Rashford's doing really well, give him 350k a week, but don't give it anyone else. But that's not how it works. Your wage bill always gets out of control. The minute we gave David De Gea 350k a week, a lot of people started getting around that, whether it's Pogba, Sancho, Ronaldo, Alexis Sanchez. So the reason a wage limit is good is that if you set that ceiling and you don't go above it, you know you're never going to go above it. But as soon as you go above it for one player, you open the floodgates for everybody else. And then that's what's happened with United's wage bill. It's become out of control because every time we'll go, well, you're having that, but no one else is. And then you try and sign a new player and they go, well, I know he's on that, so I want that. I mean, Sancho's wage is weird. I mean, I don't think Sancho's on more than 250k a week, but some people are saying he's on 325, which is why? Why did we give Sancho 325k a week? It doesn't make any bloody sense. I mean, I like the lad, but he's not worth that, and he certainly wasn't worth that from a Dortmund point of view. But yeah, maybe the Rashford one will take a bit of time because you can see potentially why he would value himself very highly. But United have got to hold their ground, otherwise the wage bill goes out of the window. And the reason wages are so important now is because wages do go into your financial fair play. And if your profit is 600 million and your wages are 400 million, then that's a lot of your revenue towards financial fair play getting eaten up by wages. So we've got to bring it down. New stadium next to Old Trafford. Old Trafford can be used for rugby finals, women's team and youth teams. New stadium for first team, says Phil. Look, if we had enough money, some people are still saying that Sancho's on 350k a week. If he's on that, someone needs the sack. And I like the player, but he's not a 350k a week player. He never has been. Why would you give someone 350k a week on potential? Like, this is the sort of prats we've got running that football club at the moment. It's just, this is why we can't be self-sufficient, because these prats for years have been chucking millions at players that shouldn't be on that wage. Going back to the stadium, would I like to see Manchester United build a new stadium next to Old Trafford? It would turn Old Trafford into a museum, and I actually don't think that's a good idea. Because the new ground would become the focus and the old ground would just become eerie, I think. It'd be very expensive to do as well. We've got a big decision to make on Old Trafford, and it's not the time for now. It's sort of like there's too many layers to that. If you remodernise Old Trafford, it will lose. I've seen some designs for Old Trafford where they've made it all shiny and metal. It doesn't look like Old Trafford anymore. It's been swallowed by modern architecture. In which case, part of me says, well, we may as well build a new one anyway. I don't want to build a new Old Trafford that doesn't look anything like the old one. You know, the thing about Old Trafford is if you look at the footage from the early 60s, you can see the shape and feel of it now. Even though it has been modernised a lot. There is a serious conversation to be had there. In some ways, you can understand why people want a new one, but it's our home, it's our church, it's a religion, it's that place. It's where George Best played, it's where Duncan Edwards played, it's where Sir Bobby Charlton played, it's where Brian Robson played, it's where the Class of '92 played. You know, that place is, you feel it when you're there. To walk away from that, I think every club that walks away from their spiritual home is never the same. Highbury compared to the Emirates. When Everton leave Goodison Park, I'm not even an Everton fan, and I'll be sad. Like, Goodison Park is just, I remember that ground as a kid. So nostalgia maybe, but it's not just nostalgia, is it? It means something. Mark, do you think Rashford deserves the number 7 shirt, says Nicholas? I'm getting a bit old for the number 7 shirt chat. The number 7 shirt is a heavy shirt to wear, says BBG, and I agree with that. It's not who gets given the number 7 shirt. It's who can own the number 7 shirt. Not everybody who's worn the number 7 shirt is a legend. You don't automatically become a legend because you wear the number 7 shirt. You have to become a legend in the shirt. I think some people think if you get given the number 7, you're a legend. Well, go back through the last 10 years and look at the number 7s. They ain't legends of this club. They're not even greats. Just because you wear the number 7 shirt doesn't make you a United great. We want that to happen, but I think people look. Whoever gets given it, great. But I mean, I personally think Bruno could have been given it. Rashford could be given it. If Sancho performs, he could be given it. Garnacho could be given it. But at the moment, I think it's best on the shelf till the start of next season. Renovate it, says Chris. It's the theatre of dreams. Could you give De Gea the number 7? Yeah, that would be a fantastically silly idea. I really do think fantastically silly. I've got so many tabs open here at the moment. Let's have a look at what people are saying. Well, another cracking show as per usual. What would I expect? Yeah, to be honest with you, if I'm and I don't want to be rude, but when we're talking about the ownership of Manchester United, when we're talking about the grounds, the Glazers, the number 7 shirt for, we've got Barcelona tomorrow night. We've got a cup final, chance to win a trophy for the first time in 5 years on Sunday. Who wears the number 7 shirt actually doesn't matter to me, but I don't buy shirts, so I know to some people it does. Sulai says, please do not call Old Trafford a church. I call it what I bloody well like, mate. I call it what I like. I respect you can call it what you like, but Manchester United and football is a religion to some people. My religion is to go to church. I respect all religions, but my religion is to go to church. So I will call Manchester United and Old Trafford a church if I want to call it a church. You can call it whatever you want. My point is, football, to many fans, is more important than religion. It is our religion. And when you've had tragedies like the 1958 Munich disaster, and that football club becomes more than a football club to people because people have died representing that football club. And when you've witnessed things like 68, 99, 08, the last 10 years, things that impact your daily life, football is a religion to football fans. So I don't know what path you're wandering on. I really don't care what path you're wandering down. Don't try and correct me on something where I know exactly what I'm talking about, and you can relate it to whatever thing you want to relate it to. What I'm saying is, knocking Old Trafford down and building a new stadium would be horrific for some United fans. I don't think I'd like it. I really think I'd struggle with it because, every time I go to Old Trafford and every time you get, you walk into the ground 20 minutes before kickoff and you just tend to, everybody does it. Have you ever been to Old Trafford and when you're walking up the steps to go out into where see the pitch, you ever noticed the footfall moves very quickly until that point, and then steps up there's always a backlog. And the reason there's a backlog is because everybody, as they walk out into the open, stops, takes a breath and takes it in. Even though you might have been there hundreds of times, you stop and you take it in. And the reason you take it in is because it's not just a football ground. It's our football ground. It's our club. And you take it in because you're looking at something that is, like I say, the people who've played in that place, the history in that place. You take a deep breath in and you absorb it. And that's what you do. That happens at the new camp as well, says Mike. Well, it happens at a lot of football clubs. That happens at a lot of places. So there we go. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed the show this morning. Hope you did as well. Don't forget, we've got Erik ten Hag's press conference coming in at 12:30 tomorrow. Sorry, 12:30 today. So we'll be reacting to that. Got the lads. Adam is actually at the press conference today as well. So we should have some footage for that. Fantastic show this morning. Really, really enjoyed it. And don't forget to smash a like on the video and subscribe. And I will be back live with you around 12:30 for Ten Hag's press conference reaction. Speak to you all in a bit. Really good conversations again. Take care, everyone.